Explain to me in globalization why they then give tax incentives to move all our businesses there, which select global corporations get basically oligopolies or cartels out of. I mean, what's the method to that madness? They give China all this power, but then on record are encircling them.
Yeah, it's the only way to approach it is that it's hopelessly contradictory because it's hopelessly irrational. In other words,
so the bankers are greedy and want to go set everything up in China, but at the same time they want to cut their oil off.
They want to have their cake and eat it too, and they want to make money individually off Chinese labor and Chinese economic development. But then at the same time, we have this mode that is kicked in now.
Well, hold on. Plus, that phase is over. China's done its job. It's deindustrialized the U.S.
Yeah, well, that's, again, nobody could deindustrialize the U.S. except the U.S. I'm pitting that on the U.S. ruling class directly.
No, I know, but that's what I'm saying. They partnered and set that up, just like they're plunging the euro today, and Goldman Sachs is in there sucking Spain and Greece and next Ireland dry, and they just move on as carrion birds from point to point.
Yeah, look, the mood in Washington, I would compare it to Great Britain looking at Germany before 1914. At that time, you know, Britain was the dominant financial center, certainly with significant industry, but Germany was coming up really fast. And after the Boer War, in the 10 or 15 years before World War I, the British had a choice. They looked at Germany and they said, well, this is very rapid economic development. Do we want to match that, right? China's getting 8, 9%, 10% economic growth per year. The U.S. has 10% unemployment, officially really 20%, and the Chinese have 10% economic growth. There's a poll today that 5 out of 7 Chinese think they're going to have more money in the coming year, right?
And then America's in decline, and we have the PLA commanders saying the U.S. is getting ready for war with them, dump our bonds. China doesn't usually just rattle sabers. This is incredible escalation.
Yeah, it is. That deterioration, that I think is why this attack on Iran is in many ways even more dangerous, because it is right now it's a oblique attack, a proxy attack on China. But the thing with China is, the U.S. could say, all right, let's have a peace race. In other words, if China is building 21 nuclear reactors, we'll build 100. If they're building 18,000 miles of fast rail, we'll build 100,000 miles.
But the parasite offshore bankers want all the money for themselves to go buy up third world countries. They don't want us getting jack squat of our tax money.
Exactly. And then there would be a lot of people in Goldman Sachs would say that threatens our money.
So the bankers are worse than the commies.
Yes. Again, commies, I don't know what, commie can applied to China today there are some, of course, but the economic process in general is not really communism at all. It's rather more like a dirigism or mercantilism of a rather traditional type. But the big problem is the U.S. ruling class, they have a choice. You could have a peace race, and you could engage with China. Again, if you're concerned because you're falling behind, then match the Chinese. Here, an example. Before 1914, the British felt threatened by the growth of the German fleet. So every time the Germans would lay down the keel of a battleship and start building it, the British would lay down 2. They called this 2 keels to 1. So fine. If you're worried about China, have 2 nuclear reactors to 1, 2 miles of fast rail for every one they build, and put twice as much money into your space program. Right? Soon we're going to have the Chinese will be on the moon, and we'll be sitting here in poverty with credit default swaps, collateralized debt obligations, and Goldman Sachs running the show. So the big problem for the U.S. ruling class is you've got to choose a peace race and come away from these stupid policies, because what they're doing now is saying, we'll foment war, we'll foment rebellion in Tibet, we're going to cause trouble with Taiwan, we're going to cause trouble in Xinjiang with this World Uyghur conference, we're going to have affronts to China, right? We're having the Dalai Lama here in Washington this week. And then we'll use Iran as, you can call it the Iran monkey trap, because they think they've got China in a bind, right? China needs Iran because they need that pipeline from Iran across Pakistan and into China, right? That's the long-term solution to China's energy problems, or at least a very large part of it, is to build those pipelines. So if you can break Chinese relations with Iran, they lose 10 or 12% of their oil now, 70, 80 billion of development contracts, plus hundreds of billions of future oil that they've contracted for, right? That could all be lost. And what Mrs. Clinton was doing in Saudi Arabia, she went there to get the Saudis to say, don't worry, Iran, we will give you the oil that you would have gotten from Iran if we put the sanctions on Iran. But it's basically a fraud. Because
okay, well, listen, we understand the larger picture, and this is really excellent, Webster, you do it as no one else can. How do they precipitate, how do they get the American people to go along with this attack on Iran? And militarily, we know Cheney, they wanted a 2-month sortie, thousands of flights, bombing the entire infrastructure, power plants, water treatment, factories, military bases, naval fleets. How do they get us to war, and what will the war look like?
Well, you know, during the course of 2009, one of the things we've seen is the return of false flag operations, right? We had Major Hassan at Fort Hood in November, and then we had the Christmas Patsy in December. And
every time intelligence knows all about it and protects them.
Right, and even before that, during the summer, we had Zazi between Flushing, New York, and Colorado. Big hysteria around that.
We had the black guy dressed up with a fake beard and turban with grenade launchers in New Jersey 3 weeks ago.
Right, we had the Scarsdale. I'm sorry, the Westchester Patsies who were going to attack a synagogue in Riverdale, and also an air base a little bit north of New York City. So that has been building up. There's a big increase during 2009 compared to 2008.
All right, stay there then. We're going to answer those 2 key questions straight ahead with Webster Tarpley. I'm Alex Jones. We're going to answer, how do they launch the false flag? What will the attack on Iran look like? What will the aftermath be?